Hello there, my name's Scott. Today I'm going to be doing a review on the Transformer Repairable Atomiser, which I received from www.e-cigisrael.com. Before I start though, I must point out I did receive it free of charge for the purpose of conducting a review. My opinion of the product remains true, honest and accurate as always. Now before I go into the close-up shots, I just want to sort of explain a little bit about the Transformer. When they first originally wrote to me, they were saying, oh, you know, we've got a website, we're going to be having an online store, you know, and that gave me the impression they can, you know, add it to their cart and check out, and they said I was going to buy one. As it transpired, it seemed to be a little bit more complicated than that, and I was basically sort of saying you need to go along to one website to buy one part of it, then you need to go onto another forum to sort of buy the remaining parts. And we had a bit of a chat because it didn't seem like a very practical way of doing it basically. So now if you did happen to want to get hold of one, or the actual complete unit that I'm reviewing here, if you send an email to this guy here, who is the owner of e-cigisrael.com, and then you can arrange a sale like that. Okay, let's go straight ahead then and show you in a bit more detail. Okay, so here we have the four main parts that make up the Transformer. Though I have been asked to point out that the base section here is actually from another atomizer called a German, which is sold and manufactured by e-cigaboom.ru. So they have basically teamed up with e-cig Israel. They're supplying them their part of the German atomizer, and e-cig Israel have then come up with these other parts to create a new atomizer called the Transformer. So it's made up of four parts. You obviously have the base section here, and it is a silica wick atomizer rather than a Genesis style atomizer. Then have a stainless steel tube. It's all made out of stainless steel, by the way. You then have a stainless steel tank which holds 2 millilitres of e-liquid, and it works in a similar way to the spheroid, except that it doesn't use any filling material. Instead, on the base you have a small hole, and the liquid basically just sort of seeps through there onto your wick, which then goes down and feeds it onto the heating coil. Now when I first saw this design I was a little bit sceptical and expecting to get either lots of flooding or lots of dry hits, but it's actually working really well. And then finally you have your top cap, which allows you to add your own 510 drip tip. Okay, so let's go ahead and show you how to get this all set up. Right, before I start to show you how to set it all up, I do want to obviously point out that this is just the way that I do it personally and what works well for me. You may have a different way of doing it, but you know, whatever works for you, that is the correct way of doing it. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do then is create a coil. So I've got myself some 2mm wick, which I've cut out at 10 centimeters long or 100 millimeters long, and I'm just going to fold it over to double it up. For the next step, I'm just going to take some 0.20 gauge Canthil wire. Now when I say 0.20 gauge Canthil wire, that's what we call it over here in the UK. I believe in America it's known as 32 AWG or 32 AGW. I can't remember what way it actually goes around. But I just cut myself off a length, probably about sort of 10 centimeters long, just to give me enough to work with. I'm going to wrap 4 or 5 coils around it. I want to make sure that both ends of the wire sort of finish facing towards me. So you should have something that looks a little bit like that. Okay, so here we have the base section of the atomizer, and incidentally it uses a 510 connection now. On top you have your positive and your negative terminals, and this is where either end of the wire is going to be attached to. And just in front of that you can see this sort of spike, and this is your air hole. And for those who are interested, the air hole is reading around 1mm in diameter. When adding the coil, you want to make sure you add it on this side and make sure that it's sitting directly above the air hole, and that'll make sure you get plenty of vapour. Okay, so for the next stage, I need to attach the coil to the 2 terminal posts. I've just loosened them up with a Phillips head screwdriver. I'm going to put both wires going through the middle and then going outwards. So I'm going to start on this side first. Just put it underneath the Phillips head there. hold it in place and bend it round. And take a Phillips head screwdriver and just tighten it up. And then do the same for the other side, through the middle, underneath the head, bend it round, and then tighten it up. So it should be something like that now. Now you're going to have these two pieces of excess wire which you need to get rid of. You can use a pair of cutters, but personally I prefer to apply a bit of tension, spin in a circle, and it should snap off nice and clean. Okay, so at this stage I'd just like to check the resistance and make sure everything's working okay. So I've just attached it to a Vamo and it's given me a reading of 1.7 ohms. And all the coils are glowing nice and evenly. For the next step, I'm going to take the stainless steel tube which has the B and I laser engraving on it. Not too sure what that actually refers to though, unfortunately. I'm just going to pinch the wick together and feed it through the tube and then just screw it into place. And then using something like a pair of tweezers, I'm just going to push the wick down so it's just sort of sitting just below the actual threads there. And that should be fine, just something like that. Now the wick is all sort of neatly tucked away there. I'm just going to take a bottle of e-liquid and just prime the wick. And that should be fine. Okay, so for the next step, I just need to add the tank onto the transformer atomizer. Now the tank holds around 2 millilitres of e-liquid, doesn't use any sort of filling material at all. Instead, hopefully you can see right down the bottom there, you can just see a little tiny dot of light. And that is a hole in the base which is going to allow the liquid to drip onto the wicker material. Now like I said, I was expecting this to either flood or give me lots of dry hits, but with the e-liquids that I've been using, which is like mainly PG based e-liquids, I've not really had any problems at all and it actually works really well. So we just need to take the tank and screw that onto the base, like so, and then you just get your e-liquid and fill it up. And I've been filling it up so it's just sort of a mil or two below the threads. And then finally you take the cap and that just screws into the top. And then finally all you need to do is attach it to whatever device you're going to use, as long as it's got a 510 atomizer connection, and then take your drip tip and whack that in the top. Okay, so that is the transformer atomizer. Let's go ahead and see what it makes like. Okay, so that is the transformer repairable atomizer, and what I'll do now is go ahead and show in action. Now over the last few weeks I've had a few conversations with people when they've asked me to sort of include this information or that information, and obviously some of them have been really good ideas, and obviously I want to start including that information for them. And also I think it's going to help to sort of pep the old reviews up a little bit, because I've been doing this since 2008 now. That's almost 5 years. I've done hundreds of reviews, and even I get a little bit bored actually recording them now, because atomizers and the mods are all very, very similar, and it does become very difficult to sort of try and talk about them in a different way that's going to sort of be exciting really. So hopefully adding a few extra sort of details is going to sort of pep them up a little bit. But my main priority would always be on the actual user experience. The only reason I use these things is to stop me from smoking tobacco. So the actual user experience of vaping is always going to be my sort of #1 priority when recording the reviews. But hopefully with the bits of extra information, I'm going to sort of, you know, sort of constantly sort of think of new things to add as well, just to sort of try and spice them up a little bit. Okay then, so the first thing, you know, is obviously to have a vapour, and that's going to be the first thing that's for me is the most important thing, is the actual vapour production. So then I'm going to be using obviously the transformer. The tank has been filled up with some 18mg strength tobacco flavoured e-liquid, it's just a PG based e-liquid. The coil is reading 1.8 ohms. I'm using a VAMO, which is a new variable wattage device, really nice cheap one as well, that works extremely well. And this is just set at 8 watts. Now, for me, you know, I've been quite impressed with the old vapour production. You know, it really does kick it out, you know, and you know, just getting a really nice vape out of it. And with regards to throat hit as well, getting a really nice strong kick in the back of my throat. You have to bear in mind though that the amount of vape you're going to get and the amount of throat hit is going to be quite dependent on how you've actually set the atomizer up, with regards to you know, obviously the resistance you've made the coil, and also with regards to what sort of voltage or wattage you're actually vaping at as well. But now with the setup I've got here, getting a really nice amount of vapour, plenty of throat hit. And one thing that people quite often ask me is about the actual flavour. And the most common one, especially if I'm doing a review on like a fiberglass wick, fiberglass wick atomizer, is how does it compare to like a Genesis atomizer? And you know, for me, the flavour is great. I'm getting plenty of flavour coming through, really nice and strong. It's hard. I find it hard to sort of compare fiberglass wick atomizers to Genesis atomizers, because for me it's quite a different experience. I can have the same e-liquid and use a fiberglass wick and a Genesis, and I find the flavour to be great in both of them, but different, and that's the only way I can sort of really explain it. But no, for me personally, using this atomizer here, I'm getting a really nice amounts of flavour coming through. Now, another sort of quite often asked question is the actual warmth of the vapour. Now, if I'm going to do a scale of, say, 1 to 5, 5 is going to be scorching hot vapour, and 1 is going to be sort of a pretty cold vapour. For me, this would register around sort of 3.5, something like that. It's definitely not a cold vape, but it's definitely not a boiling hot vape either. For me, it's just a really nice warm vape, and it's pretty much exactly how I like it, for me personally anyway. And another one that I've been asked about is the actual draw. Now again, if I'm going to do a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being like a really tight draw and 1 being a really loose draw, again this is probably for me around sort of 3.5, something like that. And it's pretty much again just how I like it. I like to have a bit of resistance there. I don't want to be sort of having to suck the life out of it to get a vape, but I can't stand like really loose airy draws as though you're just sort of sucking through an empty McDonald's straw. Now, so for me, this has got the just the right amount of resistance without sort of being too tight or too loose. I'd say it's around sort of 3.5, something like that. Just bear in mind that these aren't marks out of 5; these are a scale. Just so you know. Next thing I want to talk about is the actual build quality. This is something I've wanted to add to my reviews. Not really had that many people ask me about it, but nevertheless, the build quality for me it's pretty good. I wouldn't say it's amazing, but it's definitely good. Let's put it that way. The actual threading, the way it all connects together, etc., etc., Nothing wrong with that whatsoever, you know, I can't fault that. What does let it down though for me personally is that more noticeably around the little top cap piece is that there are quite a few sort of little dings. Got these nice little sort of contours going around there, but it is sort of you know, they're not massive. I don't want to make it as though you know, they're really massive sort of dings in it, but they are noticeable. Going all the way around, you've got these little sort of tiny, I don't know what's happened there, whether it's just sort of slipped in the chuck or something like that, but you know, definitely noticeable. And the actual finish of the metal, now it's got the finish of a brushed finish because you can feel all the little ridges, but it's quite shiny, so it's like they've done a brushed finish but then polished it. You know, because I normally associate a brush finish being more of like a matte rather than a sort of a polish, and you know, you can sort of see you know, your reflection in it quite easily. No, but literally those are my only sort of very slight criticisms. Obviously, like the main one being the little sort of dings around the top cap. But other than that, though, you know, all the parts screwed together, very nice and smooth. And, you know, overall, I would say, you know, it is a well-built atomizer. And pretty much the last thing, so I can remember, the last thing I want to sort of talk about is the actual ease of setup. Now, because obviously, you know, these atomizers, they're not like the old sort of fashioned regular 510 atomizers, all you've got to do is screw it in and have a vape. Now, these are ones that you have to actually sort of make yourself, or, you know, at least like the coil and setup, etc. And, you know, for me, if I was going to say, again, another scale, 5 being really hard, an absolute nightmare to set up, and 1 being really nice and easy to set up, I'd say this is probably around sort of 1.5. For me, it's definitely been one of the most easy atomizers to set up and get running. Literally, all you've got to do is wrap your coil around the wick, attach your 2 ends to the 2 little terminals, fill it up with juice and have a vape, and it pretty much is that simple. And I could probably, you know, get this all set up probably 40 seconds to a minute, you know, tops really. So for me, this is definitely one of the more easier atomizers to get set up and vaping. And I reckon, like I said, 1 being really easy, 5 being really difficult, I'll probably give this a rating of around sort of 1.5, something like that. And you know, overall, you know, I have really enjoyed using this atomizer. It's been a really nice vape, and you know, I've given it quite a lot of use. I've had it for about 6 weeks now, something like that. You know, and apologies to e-cig Israel for the delay, but you know, life and all that sort of stuff gets in the way sometimes. And you know, like I said, I have been really enjoying using it. It's very nice. It's so easy to set up. It vapes pretty good. Well, actually, I don't know why I said vapes pretty good. You know, it vapes very well. And you know, like I said, the only slight criticism I've got of it is just the little dings around the top there, and the actual sort of finish. You know, I'd like it to either be a matte finish or a polished finish, and I suppose that's sort of down to sort of personal preference anyway. You know, if you did fancy trying one of these out for yourself, don't bother going along to e-cigisrael.com because they don't actually sell them. It's a forum, and it's an Israeli forum that is all in Russian according to Google Translate as well, so I'm not too sure how that actually works out. But you know, if you did happen to want to get hold of one of these, you need to send an email to this guy here, who is the owner of e-cigisrael.com, and then you can arrange a sale that way. Okay guys, thank you very much for watching, and also come along and visit my website at www.ecig-reviews.com. That's e-cig-reviews.com. Cheers guys, happy vaping, see you later.